Welcome, everyone. Are you okay? Is this working? We're okay?
Try.
Testing. Can everyone hear us in the back?
Try again.
Testing one. Okay, thank you. Welcome, everyone, to services for Mindy Weinman. Services will be officiated by Rabbi Alex Lazarus Klein, Cantor Arlene Frank, and Cantor Barbara Osfeld. Thank you. If you came in late, if you do have a cell phone, if you wouldn't mind just putting it on the vibrate mode or turning the cell phone off, we would appreciate it. Thank you very much.
We're going to begin our service in your leaflet. For those of us joining remotely, we're going to be reciting, Cantor Frank will be reciting Psalm 23.
Mizmor David, Adonai Rohi, Lo Etzah, Vino Deshe Yarvitzeni, Amem Nuchot Yednahaleni, Nafshi Shaveh, Yancheni. Magletzetek leman shema kakirech bekitzamavet uirara kiyatay לפני שולחן נגד סוררי דשנת ושמן ראשי כוסי רוויה אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי שבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים.
Please join with me in the English. It's on the right side of your leaflet when you open it up. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. They anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We come together today in a way none of us wanted none of us expected. For many of you gathered either here in this space or far away, this has been an unbelievable shock over the last few days as you saw Mindy's picture in the paper. And you're still catching up to the fact that this dear, precious woman is no longer and will no longer be with us. Grief takes many stages and ways of exhibiting itself. Sometimes when someone whose eyes still were not dim leaves this world, it takes us a while to catch up to it. Today we begin the process of saying goodbye, something again that we did not want to do, to her family, her precious family, her jewels. I just want to say to David and to Amy and to Sarah and to Gary and to Kenny, Harmony, and Melissa, and also the grandchildren as well and the extended family. We are here for you. I have seen your unbelievable strength in the deepest of adversities. Sometimes we don't know truly how we will be in the foxhole, but I've seen you there. Thank you for letting me be there with you, and thank you for the wisdom and the love that you shared. I know your instinct is going to be to help us, but we're here to help you. And we hope today will be part of that process as we all mourn collectively. We're going to have an opportunity today to hear from many of the family members. There'll be other opportunities for stories. Mindy, as David told me, was someone who had many, many best friends. I think if we ask around the room and I said, who was a good friend of Mindy, probably everyone here would raise their hand. And that was one of her real precious qualities. So we're going to begin by hearing from her siblings, Gary and Kenny, and from their spouses as well. We'll be standing with them, Harmony and Melissa. I'm going to invite them to the mic over here.
Hi all, I'm Mindy's brother Gary, and this is Mindy's sister-in-law Harmony. Is it on? Hello? Is that on? Can you hear me? I'm here? Okay. Well, I'm Mindy's brother Gary. No?
They have to raise the microphone after you.
How's this? Is this better? Okay, one more time. I'm still Mindy's brother Gary, and this is still my wife and Mindy's sister-in-law Harmony. Thank you for being here and joining us remotely to celebrate my sister's life today. Far be it from me to understand God's universe and how it all works. Whoops. And how it all works. What I feel is that some 40 years ago, Mindy was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. That was in the early days of fighting this cancer, and there was a lot of experimental treatment that was being done. We were so fortunate that that had worked out. Little did we know at the time that those treatments would impact Mindy for years to come. But what did that time give us? It gave Mindy the time to fulfill her dream of becoming a dentist and a clinical instructor at her beloved UB. Meeting Dave, falling in love together, marrying her soulmate, and living a wonderful life. First having the incredible joy of bringing Amy into our lives, and then to be blessed to do the same with Sarah. To become a great mom who always put her family first. To see Amy meet, fall in love with, and marry her soulmate, Chris, whom Mindy equally loved. Amy and Chris brought the love of her grandchildren, Gia, CJ, Colton, and Lila, into our collective lives. She saw Sarah become an amazingly strong, caring, loving person that we all know her to be. She was able to have time to love our parents until their lives came full circle. She was committed to her family first and loved the collective Weinman family as one. She made countless friends who she made feel were each her best friend because they were. She left us her Mindyisms, which makes us smile every time we think of her. I may not understand the whys, but I know that we're all better for having this precious time we had with her. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kenny. I'm Mindy's other brother. Thank everyone for coming to honor my sister today. I have to admit, this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. How do I sum up a person as special as Mindy? It is clear to see how many lives she has touched by the outpouring of love and support our family has received during the most difficult and painful time. Being 11 years younger, I was more of a plaything for my sister than a brother. Although we have always been close, it wasn't until I moved to Buffalo for college that my sister and I developed a true friendship. She and Dave welcomed my then girlfriend, now wife, Melissa, into their lives with open arms. They fed us, they let us use their house as our own personal laundromat, and all of our friends were always invited to the party at the Weinmans. When Amy and Sarah were born, I had never seen my sister so happy. She was the most wonderful mother, and we learned how to parent by watching Mindy and Dave being the best example of what parenting was all about. Our 3 children, Kira, Logan, and Cole, were the luckiest kids in the world to have Mindy as an aunt. She showered them with love and attention. Even though Melissa and I moved away, we remained as close as ever with our Western New York family. Family trips to Florida, Mexican vacations, numerous times spent visiting with one another. I know my life will never be the same with my sister gone. I will miss her every single day, but I will honor her memory by living life to the fullest as Mindy always did.
Have an opportunity now to hear from Cantor Oswald, who is also one of Mindy's closest friends as well. We're going to have an opportunity now to hear from Cantor Barbara Osfeld, who was, in addition to being her cantor, was one of her close friends.
Good morning. Can you hear me? If you grew up in Dix Hills on Long Island with Mindy, please just for a moment raise your hand. And do it remotely, wherever you are, wherever you're seeing this. If you knew Mindy as an undergrad at Eisenhower College, please briefly raise your hand. If you collaborated with her on her in-depth undergraduate studies of the wines of Spain, hands up. You know, oddly, Dave, no hands went up for that. If you went to dental school at UB with Mindy, raise your hand for a moment. If Mindy was your dentist, a lot of people. If you knew Mindy through this congregation, Shir Shalom. If you danced at Mindy and Dave's wedding. If you met Mindy through Dave or at a softball game, raise your hand. If you met Mindy at yoga, hands up. At Pilates, if you walked with Mindy, if she was your professor at UB, if you saw her at Weinberg campus or at the JCC, if you met her via Amy, if you met her via Sarah, if Gary was your conduit to Mindy, or if Ken introduced you to Mindy, or if you knew Henry or Lila, raise your hand. If you served on a committee with Mindy, if you saw Mindy at Wegmans, I expected more hands than that. If she regularly updated you on Chris or CJ or Gia or Colton or Lila, if you ever heard Mindy sing, the family's laughing, there you go. Well, every hand here is or was raised. As one of her BFFs, Helen Aronoff, famously said, because she's now quoted everywhere here, Mindy is the only person I knew who had 50 best friends. Facebook says 454, but even that's an understatement. Why? Because Mindy's kindness and good cheer were everywhere, and Mindy's love still is. She radiated light and warmth, and she would want us to strive to do the same. And all of us best friends will say her name loudly and often to remember Mindy and to remind ourselves to be more like her. We, Mindy's friends, promise this to her 4 grandchildren, to Gary, to Ken, to Amy, to Sarah, and to Dave. Zecher Tzadek et Livracha, the memory of an archetypal friend, blesses all of us.
I'd like to invite up our synagogue president, Todd Sugarman.
Can you hear me? Good. Mindy was a friend of mine for about 35 years. Over those many years, she became a good friend. However, I'm here to speak to you on behalf of the Board of Trustees and the Executive Committee of Congregation Shir Shalom. Mindy was a fixture in Temple life since her presidency of Temple Beth Am from 2000 to 2002. She was in some sort of leadership position since then. She helped with making the merger between Temple Beth Am and Temple Sinai go smoothly. Mindy had an unwavering support for the congregation. In 2003, as an officer of Temple Beth Am, she was instrumental in gathering a small group of people in her home to do a mini phone-a-thon to help spare the temple from doom and disaster. She helped the congregation survive and heal. Whatever it took, it was never too much for her. When I asked her 8 years ago to become VP of Worship, she immediately accepted the position and, of course, worked extremely hard doing it. The spirituality mattered to her. That is what made her an outstanding VP of Worship. And after doing the job for approximately 6 years, she had the nerve to tell me she wanted to step down and spend more time with her grandchildren. I, of course, said, no way, you're not leaving until I tell you you can leave. We both laughed because that is who she was. She had a great sense of humor. But I did convince her to stay on, and of course, we all know she could do both jobs. There are many other stories I could tell you about the battles we had together and private phone calls after a heated board meeting, but we'd always figure it out and stay on the same page. This was the type of person Mindy was, always looking out for her second family, this congregation. Her dedication and commitment were constant. She made a difference. We will all miss her. We love you, Mindy.
Now I'd like to invite up David and Amy and Sarah to reflect on Mindy's life.
You want to go first, Amy?
Thanks, Dad. Good morning. Can everyone hear me? Thumbs up? Yeah, okay. The teacher and me, huh? Okay, so good morning. Bear with me because I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it through all of this, but we will try. So good morning. I would like to begin by saying how much it means to see all of you here today, both in person and also everyone who is watching via live streaming, to honor my mom. She was truly an amazing woman who touched so many people's lives. As I'm sure you all know, my mom had a heart of gold, and I was lucky enough to experience that firsthand. I have been grateful every day of my life that I got to call my mom, Mom. If you were to ask my parents, they would say that they were blessed to bring me home, but I am the one who was blessed with the most amazing mother. As a mom, Mindy was attentive, caring, and always in the mix, whether she was reading me one more bedtime story, or letting me help her cook, or cheering me on in all my endless soccer games and saving mementos of all my accomplishments. My room at home still looks like it did when I was in high school. Her love for Judaism was apparent in all that she did, and she made sure to instill that upon Sarah and I. The morals and values we learned by being part of the Jewish community here in Buffalo have shaped us into the people we are today. I didn't think it was possible for my mom to love anyone as much as she loved me and my dad and my sister. But then I met Chris, and he brought Gia and CJ into my life and into my mom's life and made her a grandma. Seeing my mom's love grow for both Gia and CJ was amazing. She made coming to Buffalo such a special experience for all of us. She always made sure to stop at Wegmans and have their favorite foods all ready in the house, toys for my kids to play with, but most importantly, tons and tons of Grandma Mindy snuggles. Every night before bed, she and Gia would snuggle up and read stories. My mom always knew just how to make little moments like those special. Then I had Colton and Lila, and I truly think my mom's heart may have burst. I can still remember when we first told her we were pregnant with Lila. I printed a cheesy poem and put it in a frame and gave it to her as a present. She had to read the poem like 3 times and kept saying, "Whoa, whoa, wait, what? Whoa." My dad read it, and he had no idea what was going on. He said, "Oh, that's so nice." And she turned to him and yelled, "They're having another baby." I know it was hard for her to be so far away from us and not to be able to be at the hospital when I had Colton. Lila came into this world so fast, nobody would have made it there with us. We almost didn't. But my mom came as quick as she could, and she stayed with us and helped me navigate being a mommy of a teeny tiny baby for the very first time. I remember when it was time for her to go back to Buffalo, I just kept thinking, how am I going to do this without you? I told her that, and she told me I was going to be fine because I was already an amazing mom. She gave me the confidence. Hold on. She gave me the confidence I didn't know how to have on my own. My mom absolutely loved being a grandma, and I am so grateful for all the amazing memories my children have made with her. I once read somewhere that a mother's hug lasts long after she lets go. And this couldn't be more true. I can still feel the last time I hugged my mom in the wee hours of the morning as Chris, the kids, and I set off back to Long Island from visiting Grandma Mindy and Papa Dave, as Colton would say. So until we meet again, we will see her in our dreams and love her in our hearts and keep her memory alive in all of our daily encounters. Love you too. All right, your turn.
Thank y'all for coming to celebrate the life of my mother. Although it is extremely hard to be up here, I could not miss an opportunity to sing my mother's praises because she never missed one to sing mine or Amy's. Apart from my childhood best friend, my mother was my best friend. When I was bored, she was who I would call or FaceTime. I could, and did, tell her everything, all of which she welcomed with open arms and never judged. Well, maybe just a little. As you've already heard, and as my mom's friend Helen said recently, my mother was the only person she knew who had 50 best friends. I was lucky to count myself in that number. My mom was always authentic. She showed up as herself and, as we all know, showed up on her own time. As a child, I found it annoying that we literally could not go anywhere without seeing someone she knew from temple, or a patient, or a friend's cousin, without my mom stopping them to say hi, which really meant a full 5 to 10 minute conversation. Trips to Wegmans were marked with these events where I would wait not so patiently as my mom inquired about every single detail of a neighbor's child's girlfriend or whatever pressing issue required immediate attention. My mom took every opportunity she could to spend with friends and especially family. We grew up knowing which holidays were spent with which parts of the family and where, and it was important to her that we make the time to uphold these plans. Even more so when it was a Jewish holiday. When COVID hit and I prepared a full Seder for the first time for my friends in New Orleans, Mom cried when I FaceTimed her to show her the final product. She took so much joy in future generations celebrating their Judaism. Watching my mom and dad's relationship has been a source of joy and pride for me. They were best friends and loved each other with such a depth that I didn't truly appreciate until my adulthood. They balanced each other. They amplified each other's assets and embraced each other's flaws. My mom made time for her tennis and later mahjong. My dad bowled and played all the softball. Then they made time for each other with nightly stargazing sessions and jokes in the jacuzzi or long walks. Mom, although you lamented that I was too picky, I was just trying to find a relationship like yours and Dad's. It will be one of my greatest sorrows that you will not get to meet a future partner of mine or meet potential grandchildren from me.
I'm sorry you all had to be here today, but I'm so grateful for all of you coming to honor Mindy and us. And I look out here, and even though I see a lot of familiar masks, I also see, I thank you so much for being here for her. The very first time I laid eyes on Mindy Gwen Patakoff was in histology lecture, the first week of the first year of dental school. I was toward the back of the hall, and from that vantage, I saw this gorgeous, dark-haired young woman come in and take a seat a few rows in front of me. As she entered, I could see her making conversation with other classmates as if they were longtime friends. She was beautiful and vivacious, and I immediately looked her name up on the class photo and guessed that she was probably Jewish. I was already suspecting she was out of my league, but somehow I had to get to know her. We dated once or twice, but she got diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease that fall, and she spent much of that first year of dental school being treated for that and with radiation and surgery, all the while continuing her dental studies and never falling behind. She also began dating someone else, another dental student a year ahead of us. I was pretty sure that that was it for me, and I dreaded the thought of spending 3 more years of dental school looking wistfully at this beauty who wasn't interested in me like I was in her. The summer between our first and second year of dental school, she mailed me a postcard just to say hi. I was over the moon. Was she interested in me romantically or just being friendly? Hoping, of course, it was the former. I couldn't wait to start school in late August to see her again. We arranged a date to play tennis together, and things took off from there. As you've already heard about Dr. Helen Aronoff and her 50 best friends comment, I think Helen us underestimated by a factor of 10 at least. Another friend, Jerry Sullivan, the sports writer, once described our marriage with this football analogy. He said I outkicked my coverage when I married Mindy. To use another sports analogy, she was the star of the team and I was her dedicated water boy. Speaking of boys, boy was the nickname her Eisenhower College friends gave me early on. It seemed appropriate then. I may have outgrown it since. Mindy collected friends and never let them go. Her college friends have remained close always, and we were lucky enough to have one last reunion with many of them in August. Just a great collection of bright and fun people who have supported each other through all these many years. Mindy loved children, and after we got married, it became evident after a time that her Hodgkin's treatments had rendered her unable to get pregnant. She sent letters to every OBGYN in Western New York, asking them to contact us if ever there was a baby available for adoption. Months went by with no responses from any of them. Then, unexpectedly, one morning in August of 1984, I took a phone call. Mindy had left for work already, so I took the call. It was a doctor from Buffalo who said there was a baby girl born yesterday at Children's Hospital. Were we interested in adopting her? After hitting my head on the ceiling after I jumped for joy, I said, of course. The doctor said we needed to buy a car seat, some diapers, some baby clothes and formula, and we should meet him tomorrow at the hospital to bring our new baby home. I called Mindy at work. We are going to be parents tomorrow. That next afternoon, I drove baby Amy Rachel to our apartment in Tonawanda with Mindy in the back seat next to our new daughter. I have never driven a car more nervously or more excitedly than I did in that moment. 4 years later, we adopted Sarah Michelle. Different circumstances, but just as much joy. Sarah and Amy have made our lives infinitely richer, and I can't imagine ever not having them in our lives. Okay. Thanks. Mindy had her weaknesses. We all do, of course. I found out I have a few. A few months ago, she spilled something in the kitchen and grabbed the vacuum cleaner. She would have been happy to clean it up herself if only she knew how to turn the darn thing on. She also had a problem with punctuality. Somehow the only thing she ever seemed to be on time for was Temple. Of course, we live, and she knew this, exactly 7 minutes from Temple. At our office, which is more like 25 minutes from home, she seemed to perpetually arrive 15 minutes late. We ultimately addressed that issue by not telling her that the patients were given appointments for 8:15, not 8 o'clock as she believed. Mindy fought multiple health challenges with courage and determination. I saw her bravery too many times. She had an unbreakable spirit right to the end. Sadly, her poor radiation-ravaged lungs could no longer heal themselves from her last surgery. But I can tell you her example of how to be a mom, a wife, a friend, a sister, a caring dentist, that will go on and on. She is as good an example of a human being as God ever put on this earth, and I was so very lucky to be her husband. Just because I can't stop until I've wrung every single tear out of my eyes, please let me read a few of the lyrics to the song we danced to, our first dance at our wedding. Wise men say only fools rush in, but I can't help falling in love with you. Like a river flows surely to the sea, darling, so it goes. Some things are meant to be. Take my hand, take my whole life too, for I can't help falling in love with you. Thanks, you guys. Love you.
We do have tissues in the house, apparently. Joanne made sure that there were big trash cans from the other side of the building were brought in. And I don't see any there, but we do have tissues underneath the lectern here. Sometimes some people that you need in your life find you. That's how Mindy was. She was someone you could always count on. WWMD. What would Mindy do? Today was a good example, and I think we handled it okay without her, but her voice was in my head right here. And Mindy lent me some words to say today. 5 years ago, in preparation for holidays, I asked a couple of questions of congregants. I said, what object, food, or piece of clothing most connects you to the high holidays? What is the most difficult challenge you have faced in your life? How were you able to overcome the challenge? This was how Mindy responded. Number one, the easy question. The round challah is my symbol of the new year. For me, it symbolizes the circle of life, the circle of the year that has just ended and the new year beginning. Breaking it symbolizes for me the fact that life is not permanent. Sorry, forgive me. And as we go through life, like eating this bread, it changes and has an ending. Dipping a piece into honey reminds me of the sweetness around us. We only eat this particular type of challah at the high holidays, and it is always the first thing I eat to break my fast. So it is special, and that reminds me of how special our lives are. It is also comforting, both on the taste and in the fact that we, family and friends, are together to eat this, along with all the other special holiday foods. Number two, the way more difficult question for me. My most difficult challenge began when I learned I had Hodgkin's disease at the age of 24. Just as I began dental school, how could this be happening to me? What did I do to make this happen? These were my questions, and I found myself questioning my faith and the way I imagined God. The answers to my questions came long after my recovery. I realized that I didn't do anything to make this happen, and bad things do just happen. I realized that when I was faced with adversity, something from inside of me just made me dig deep and fight to recover. At that age, as is so common, I had never thought about dying and what it meant. And because of having to confront cancer and death, and then the challenges of not being able to have children of my own, I became a stronger person. I reconnected with my Judaism and found comfort in being spiritual again. I realized that prior to going through this treatment, my faith was more superficial. Magical thinking was my norm. Then I came to realize that the something that had made me fight to get better, and with Dave, find a way for us to be parents and have our daughters, was actually my faith. It is what helped me to push through the really tough times and fight for life. I also know that sometimes the outcome just cannot be good. But by not trying, just giving up, you really don't know. I was lucky, and now I know it. It may sound like a cliche, but I know that none of us can know what life will bring. The challenge is to make yourself think about what life means and how to go about living it. I know I am stronger today because of what I dealt with all those years ago. I think I have a story to tell, that if my story can help someone else who is going through a tough time, for whatever reason, it helps me to feel like I am able to give back. Life is full of challenges. I think the biggest challenge we face is figuring out how we choose to deal with them. And then she concluded, Shana Tova, Mindy. Thank you, Mindy. Thank you for being you. Thank you for the extra 40 or so years we received. Thank you for your blessing of your family, for your gift of you, and for all that you brought. We're so grateful. We know it's not going to be easy to go forward, but we will, and we know that your strength will help us as we cope and we learn and we grow. And we know that you're going to be looking out for us wherever you are to make sure that our lives are special and that we understand just how many blessings we have in them. We're going to turn to our memorial prayer. The El Malei Rachamim, I invite you to rise. And we have her Hebrew name, Masha Bad Henech Valeah. Oh, Henech is my father's Hebrew name. Amazing. Please join with me in the middle in the English. Lord, full of mercy, who dwells on high, find fitting rest upon the wings of the Shekhinah, divine presence, and the height of the holy and pure, who shine like the glow of the firmament for the soul of Mindy Weinman, who has gone to her eternal world. For we pray in memory of her soul, may her resting place be in the Garden of Eden. Therefore, may the Master of Mercy shelter her in the shelter of God's wings forever. May God bind her soul in the bond of life. The Lord is her inheritance. May she rest peacefully upon her resting place, and let us say, Amen.
At this time, if I may ask the pallbearers to please step forward. And also, if you're going in procession with us to Elm Lawn Cemetery, if you would please put your bright lights and your four-way flashers on. And when we do exit the sanctuary, I'm just going to ask everyone, no conversations, space yourself out. If you're going to the cemetery, you can exit through this exit. And if you're going through this exit, please, like I said, just space yourself out. We would appreciate it. And if everyone would please remain standing while this casket is taken from the sanctuary, we would appreciate it. Thank you very much. And the family will be following us as we exit the
like to also just let everyone know there will be a Shiva at the family's house 7 minutes away, as David said. I don't have the address, but 60 Forest Glen Drive. Oh, I have it right here. Okay. And there is a tent that is set outside. Please wear masks. For those of you not joining us, we just wanted to make the announcement over the stream as well. There had been a COVID exposure within the family, and just understand the risks, but there will be social distancing, and it will all be outside. And the Shiva is from 5 to 7 with tonight and tomorrow, with a service beginning approximately 6:30.